Invocation by Henry, all about a flag salute.
Welcome, Lord Jesus. Come be with us today and guide us down your path of righteousness. Bless our commissioners. Grant them guidance and wisdom, prudence in the decisions they have to make today. Jesus, thank you so much for the blessings you bestow on us, the great love you had for mankind to sacrifice yourself, and the great blessing you give us living in this beautiful county we call home. Thank you for the power of your name so we can stand up and boldly tell Satan to get out, that we don't want him, we don't need him. He can crawl back into the pit he came from. Lord, again, thank you for the blessings. Please keep us mindful today, all of us who come here with presentations, questions, or opinions, to follow your leadership and treat each other with respect and kindness. I pray in your name, Jesus. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, first item on the agenda this morning is a public hearing for the Marion County 2020 budget. So, Scott Lord's also with us this morning. So, since this is a public hearing, we're open to the public. So, any questions that need to be directed to the commission or to Scott?
Not yet.
Really?
If you remember, the mill levy stayed the same. The assessed value did go up, so there was some gain there, and some people that have assessed value increases will see a tax increase from that standpoint, but the mill levy stayed the same. And I don't know, I'll answer anything, try to answer anything. Tina, any questions?
Has any decision been made on funding the transfer station?
No, not yet.
There was, yeah, vote.
There's some questions whether sales tax question can go to the electorate based on some wording that was in the resolution that had been passed, what year?
Well, that
From the
was-
jail, right?
No, there was special legislation passed last year to give us authority to ask for a sales tax for a project such as the transfer station, but the wording in it is restrictive, and so we may not be able to utilize that for a smaller project.
Any questions in regard to the budget?
Is it budgeted in the black?
Are we operating in the black? Yes. Very important for the county to operate in black. Scott can attest to that.
Yeah, it's very important. Makes Tina's job also very, very much easier. So somebody, I got this new county I picked up, and they have one fund that's been running the red, and they're trying to just figure out, how to get it cleaned up. It's a county that had some misappropriations in it, so we're cleaning it up. But anyway, this treasurer said, I am not signing these. There's a statement on every expenditure that goes through that there are funds available to be used for this expenditure, and that treasurer and and Tina have to sign off on every time that goes through, and then the commission also. But they have to say to the commission that, and it wasn't happening, so she goes, I don't want to sign these things anymore. And so that happens sometimes. I mean, there's times when it gets that situation. That is not the case in Marion County. Marion County is very well run.
So what happens then if they don't sign it then?
That expenditure doesn't happen. They have to provide for that purchase order, and if they don't sign it, it doesn't happen. That, you know, it's interesting, all those statutes like that were set up back in the 30s in the Depression. Basically all cash basis, running from the standpoint of cash basis. That's why Kansas is one of the most conservative states from that standpoint. They don't let you go into some of these other debts that the federal government and some of these other, well, we can't print our own money in Marion County either. That's well, we're not supposed to print our own money in Marion County.
Any more questions or comments on the budget? Okay, had your opportunity.
Since the public didn't have any questions, can I ask a question or two?
Sure.
Okay, so Scott, or whoever, I'd like to, or the commission, I guess, is probably who I'd like to direct this question to. And that's with all the problems that we had with the roads. And I didn't use the middle column like you usually refer to, Scott. Actually, I used 2018 versus 2020
Okay.
to base my question on here, because 2018 is an actual.
And we're in the Road and Bridge Fund?
Yes, we are.
Okay.
So I'm wondering why we're cutting road and bridge by 32%, and at the same time increasing purchases of equipment by 95%. I mean, I'm not sure that we have, and it just seems a little off balance to me, but I'm just wondering why, and that's why I'm asking maybe the commission on that too, what their thoughts were when we did that. Because I'm not sure by buying 95% more equipment, who's going to run and operate all this new equipment? Now, I know we have one or two items that we purchased here just recently, but I'm talking about the 2020. So if you look at road and bridge for 2020, we have $3,422,000, whereas in 2018 we had $4,566,000, and that's where I come up with the 32%.
Say that number again.
3,422,000.
That's the taxes.
That's ad valorem
That's
tax.
ad valorem tax, okay.
Right.
And then you're
okay.
comparing that to what?
2018 of 4,566,000.
Those numbers aren't comparable. That number is the ad valorem tax, the
Yeah.
first one. Okay,
Okay.
that's the amount of tax we levied.
Yes.
So if you looked on one page back to 9.
Okay, I have 9. Is that 9 A
uh,
or B?
We're on 9A is where the 3,422,000 shows up.
Okay,
Down at the very bottom of the 2020 column.
you're on 9A.
That's 9A, and then the number you should compare that number to is in the middle columm on the page before, 9, okay?
Yeah, I didn't use any middle column because those are kind of almost.
Well, you're comparing taxes levied
Yes.
against total expenditures, and
Yes.
you can't compare those two. Those are like apples and oranges.
Okay.
So if you wanted to get a comparison of that 4,566,000,
Mhm.
you would just go right across the line there. 4,566,000, 4,911,000, and then the 6,000,006, which is the amount of, it's also cash that's budgeted. That's why there's a bigger jump there. But those numbers are those total expenditure numbers would be the ones you would compare. That 3,004,000 wouldn't be compared to the total expenditures.
Okay, but if you have that less money that we're giving now in 2020 versus what we had in 2018, that we allotted for there on the authority.
Yeah, but the number that there's 3,422,000 comparison number is 3,329,000. The taxes, we had there was a little bit more given to the
3,329,000.
3,329,797. That would be the middle column on page 9, second number down.
Okay, see, I went with 218 rather than the middle column.
Well,
No,
no. Okay, like right there. See that?
Yes, I do.
That 3,329,000.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that those are the numbers right there. 3,255,000 is ad valorem in 18. 3,329,000 is ad valorem in 19. And then if you go down to the bottom of that next page, the number you were talking about right there is that bottom number right there,
Yes.
3,422,000.
Yes,
That would be the number you compared those two we just looked at.
Right.
The number you're comparing it to is that 4,566,000. You see that
I
bold
do.
number on the 18 column?
yes, that's the total.
That is total
expenditures.
expenditures, which has nothing to do with the amount of ad valorem tax. To compare that, you'd have to go across those bold numbers. If you're looking at spending from 18 to 19 to 20,
Yes,
that would be the numbers you compare. And the reason in any of these funds that right-hand column has more expenditures is because cash carryover, in that case there, the 997 is included in that. So about $1 million there, so that drops it to 5.6. And then we have some blacktop roads line items that are built in. But we had to use those in the middle column because remember the gravel, that's why the middle column's inflated a little bit there.
I
We
see
had,
that.
we had to use it, I think we ended up putting 1.6 million in there, and the budget in 19 was only 750,000.
There's 1 mil.
So when you compare those numbers, that 3,422,000 would not be able to be compared to that 4,566,000 because they have no relationship from a percentage increase. You see what I'm saying?
I do. So on that same page that you're on, then page 9, just
Okay.
gonna talk about the expenses, okay?
Okay.
That's just, okay, that's the front page.
9B.
9A,
9A. Okay, yeah, you can go up on that one.
okay, so. Okay, so there we have less in 2020 on, I'm talking about the gravel roads,
Yeah,
than we had in the middle column.
right.
And so, would we not want that to be a little bit more in reverse?
Well, what we did is original budget, if you remember, in that middle column on gravel roads was 750,000. We're budgeting now 1.6 million, and in 2020 it'll be 900,000 in the gravel road line item. So we increased it by 200,000 to help maybe into the next year. I don't know, depending on how many roads get fixed, there'll be an extra 200,000 stuck in that line item. Because in 2018, the gravel commodity line item was 772,977. So we were setting 772, and that's kind of why we went with 750 and 19 based on history. But 2019 is not a common year. Right before you got here, Kent and I, we were talking about Durham flood, 2 inches from the 1951 level. So we had a lot of rain. So one point, I can see how those roads, right there, you can see it, 772,997 right there, 1.6 million, and then we put 900,000 in the 2020 column.
And that total for the whole department, not just for gravel, in 2018 was 1,508,000.
Yeah.
In 2020, it's gonna be high because we had all those extra expenditures. And then in 2020, you budgeted higher than you did for 2018 at 1.7.
Right, so we should get a lot of gravel roads done this year, based on that extra.
Well, we've already spent that gravel on,
It kind of depends what happens with FEMA. Okay, so like you've had 4, I think you put gravel roads 4 times on gravel roads. Depends how much FEMA will reimburse, and it usually takes 9 months. Some of the townships in Reno County are at a year now, and they don't have their money. So if you get that money back, yeah, that's a budget credit, or that can come back in, and you can use that. But we've already spent the money to put those. This probably, I don't know how much of that 1.6 will be true road building and gravel road, rebuilding that
Right.
road and putting gravel on it. Most of it
Most
will
of it's
be,
just gravel.
it's down the creek. I mean, that's where most of it probably is,
literally.
literally down the creek, yeah.
Okay.
And we're spending $19, $20 a ton versus 10, 11 where we was at. So that's another reason why we went so high this year too, is for the higher hard rock.
And on that same page, can you come down just a
A little
tad
bit,
bit?
yeah.
Down, no, the other way. Down, yeah. Is that 9A? Is that page 9A?
This is the detail that goes along with 9A, so I'll go back to 9A.
Okay, so that's the detail.
Yep.
Okay, so I was looking then at the administrative costs. That's also the wages and all that stuff, am I right?
That'd be the
It's-
wages for administration, yeah.
And it's also like insurance and
different things,
utilities
and
Yeah,
and
there's-
several different things.
There's
different
the four,
things.
there's the four line
And so
items.
here's the detail for that. So whatever that,
Yes.
on that admin, you see the 328 that's on your sheet.
I
This
see
is
that.
how it's broken out,
Okay, and so I see that. So then my question on that right there is, since 2019, we added an engineer, but we increased the budget for 2020, for 2020, only $21,000 from last year, when we increased, we have an $80,000 salary. I'm just wondering, are we maybe a little short there, or, you see what I'm saying?
We've cut one person off, we're only using one person underneath of him, that salary would be there, wouldn't it?
Well,
Administration.
yeah,
I'd have to look at the sheets.
Okay,
But we tried to figure that in as we go. so.
but okay, so you're saying because we had a road supervisor and a culvert supervisor.
We had two people underneath our main
Right, now
person.
you've got one, but that
Paying
one
it
is
for-
making almost what the two would have, close to it. So, I didn't figure that salary, but I know he's not making the same amount of money that they were making, he was making more. So I'm just asking that question because it just looks like we might be a little short there with adding an $80,000 plus benefits salary to
Yeah.
that. I don't know,
Could be,
just kind of stuck out a little bit.
yeah. That middle column, I'm guessing here right off the top of my head, she's gonna look here, but that middle column, we had to adjust so strongly to get that 1.6 million in that gravel line item. Because what happens is you can't take, a negative balance over to the 2020 column. Anytime in any budget, you have to almost over double, the amount just in one line item. You have to pull from other line items to make that column work. I'm not sure about where you have one person you haven't replaced and you've added in the, I'd have to look here.
See, I didn't even look at the actual salaries, just what I remember.
But see, if you had two salaries down there as your assistants at 40,000, those two move up to the top for an 80,000. Top man, the middle man stays the same, so there's your, coverage is real close.
I don't know that they were making that kind of money, but maybe, like I said, I don't have the salaries.
How much is the month, right?
I should have looked at their salaries, I was just going by memory,
Well,
but
and I did send you all the wage information
I've been working on that for the pay plan. Yes.
for the budget, so.
And that's one of the reasons we emphasize the strength of the general fund.
Yeah, it's included in there.
If you
So
don't-
I
you
was-
don't have a strong general fund, you can't make those transfers, and you get short another part.
Yeah, and I just, as a comment, I noticed that we increased the general fund quite a bit, and I was just kind of, I don't know, the general fund is just a little bit less visible, so it's kind of, that's a real complex one.
Yeah.
It's not nearly as transparent as the individual budgets.
Yeah, 'cause you have so many departments,
Yeah, and so many things combined
Yeah.
within there, so it's a little,
revenue streams.
a lot less transparent.
It just shows that we have. It was last year's number.
So I was just,
So
just
here's what,
questioning those things.
Diane, here's what happened. The 199,308 is the same personnel services as what originally was in 19, okay?
Yes,
And then, because you guys, had decided what to do with the pay plans, so we left the line item the same as the previous year. So that's where the 199,308 comes from. The
Okay.
sheet that you would've got sent has a total of 187, and I don't know the dollars, but 187 is the amount with the new engineer in it. So we've got plenty in the 2020 column. And that 2019 column would have been, he would have been, when was he hired?
June.
June, so
1st.
he'd be 6 months. So that's probably why we were able to take some of that out of the middle
Right.
column to make it work in that gravel line item, because that's what we had to do. We had to go through every one of those line items to get that one line item of gravel to make it happen. So
We also were short, we didn't run with two supervisors under
supervisors,
Jesse
yeah.
for several months.
Yeah.
I mean, that's
So-
simple.
that's why
So
the middle
that's, the
column's
middle column's
lower.
lower, yeah.
Okay.
And that pay sheet, if you, you may have it, you can look back, it's 187 for the 2020.
Page 187.
No, that's the total salary.
187 for that 199,308 is, we have enough built in there to cover, hopefully, that, what happens here in 2020 with that administration.
Okay. I'll go back and look at that, on that pay sheet. So you-
Her sheets they're really good, because they take each department, and you can go through and see each person, and then it comes down to a total, and then you have down below the employee benefits that match up to that number. It's automatically calculated
That's
to
the
each of
ones,
the.
pretty
each of
much
the-
that the individual departments have given us as well.
That's right.
why
Well,
we
Well, but we did
thought
some
that.
more work after that,
Yeah.
and so I sent you a whole big packet of that information a few weeks ago.
Okay, any other comments from the public? If not, we're gonna move on. And thank you for being here, Scott.
Oh, sure.
You go ahead and take action then to approve the budget.
Yeah. So, at this point, we need to approve the budget for 2020. I'll go ahead and make that motion.
I'll second.
Been moved and seconded. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Very much.
Thank
Thank you.
Yep. Have a great day.
Choose.
Thank you.
Thank you. Take care.
Yeah, see you later.
Okay, moving on, administrative business, Tina.
Okay, first of all, I have you sign the budget, and I find the copy I had.
Yes.
It is hidden. There's some stacks here.
How many copies we get?
Well, just sign the front one, and then I can, if you want a paper printout copy, then I'll get that for you.
So where do we sign now?
Oh, those tiny little lines?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Right here?
yes. Tiny little ones. They are small.
Sign tiny?
Yeah, if you can. Thank you. Okay. I have the minutes of August 12.
Got a chance to review those minutes? Additions or corrections? I'll move we approve the August 12 minutes written.
Second.
Moved and seconded, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
We do have some change orders and supplements. checks.
First one is for our transport fuel bids from Cooperative Grain and Supply, in the amount of $16,722.93. And the other one was from the park, like internet service. Is that a monthly bill?
Yes, I think that may have just been received out of, not at the right time or not turned in.
Eagle Communications, about $149.94. Does that include their telephone and everything, Eagle?
No, I don't
Just
believe so.
internet?
Yeah, it's internet and cable,
I'm gonna say cable for the park.
right.
Pretty much the line, I think. The trailers and stuff, yeah.
Oh, okay, it covers that.
Yeah, I think it covers all that.
Well, it covers, for sure it covers the campground.
Yeah, campground,
area,
what I'm
because
saying,
they-
yeah.
So cable's part of the rent.
I don't know if it covers the trailers, it covers the campground.
Campground,
Yes.
I don't know if that's all on the price when you pay like $15 a night, or whether that's included, or whether you have to pay extra.
I think it's extra.
Extra.
You can opt to. But I'm not sure.
Right, we'll have to ask for that.
You missed it. You missed it.
Left one?
Yeah.
Big.
Thank you.
Mhm.
In your packet, you had the revised, you had asked for the language on your resolution 2019-12 to include a revision. And I sent that to you in your packet. It's on page 4. And Brad had approved that language.
That was
That it's- Item
number.
2D, proper drainage as determined by county staff shall be installed by US Cellular and approved by county staff. So if you're okay with that language, you've already approved the resolution itself, you just need a signature on the paperwork.
Commission okay with that?
All right.
Doesn't say paid for one.
Those are the previous
Previous?
versions, I just stuck them
Okay.
on there so you can reference.
I didn't want you to send it back to me again.
Okay. We did get a copy, Bryce has received his engineering certificate and he provided a copy to the office, so we do have that now. And on your agenda, I forgot to mention at the beginning of the meeting, but it was about 4:30 on Friday, and I was notified that planning and zoning does not need their time today, so they were able to resolve whatever issue they had. And so that's all I have.
Okay. Very good. Road and Bridge, Bryce, you here?
Bryce?
Morning.
Not much today. We did receive transfer fuel bids. depth surface was low bid. And last thing.
Looks as though Epps has a low bid on all three areas.
Yep. So the three fuels for the transport, so.
So I'll go ahead and make a motion to approve the low bid of Epps service in the amount of $16,089.25.
Second.
Moved and second, all those in favor?
Aye.
The only other thing I had was, appreciate the extension of the 60 days. I've received my PE license as of Monday of last week, so now it's all official. I believe I gave a copy to Tina, or whether she gave you guys a copy, I gave my copy.
You just saw it.
Yep. So again, appreciate that extension.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
Good man.
It's always fun to deal with stuff like that, just, all of a sudden, boom, shows up, so. Other than that, unless you guys have anything, I mean, really happy with the day, guys, put you on the end for the, meeting at 10:30, whatever.
Appreciate that. Yes, speakers are available.
Yep.
Available.
I was gonna plan on it, so. But other than that, we're still chasing the roads and stuff, so. These rains are getting more just crazy. It's so isolated, unique, but yet, places getting hammered. Obviously, I heard talk about the train, I don't know if you guys heard about the train damage down in Walton, I mean, that's just unheard of, so.
It's an ugly sight to see in person.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
saw
so-
it that night.
Yeah, and that track will be shut down for.
No, it's open already.
Oh, it is already?
Yeah,
They just
24 hours,
pulled-
they was running at 5 o'clock this morning.
So they just
I
pulled
heard,
everything off the
I heard a
site?
train go through Florence and it had diff cup.
Yeah, they just pulled everything off the track and fixed the track. And
Yeah, get the track first, get the
Yeah.
tanks removed, and then we'll pick them cars up.
That's a pretty high volume track. And
Yeah.
run stuff from Southwest put up into Chicago, I guess.
But the funny part to me is the oil tankers on the east side lays over to the east.
Yeah.
And the train moving goes to the west.
Yeah.
Which, if the wind was coming from the north blowing it that way, you thought it all went one way, but no, that's not how it happened.
For a minute, I wondered if it had been some kind of tornadic
Who knows? Yeah.
activity.
Just tells you the kind of wind force or whatever happened, so. Anyway.
So was the last major rain event, was that pretty much countywide, or was it kind of limited to the north and west?
Well, the one we had last,
The last week? one?
yeah, that was more north and west, but yeah, it's just all over the place, you never know. Some places get a little bit, some places get a lot.
Well, the night of this train derailment, at 11 o'clock at night, they was talking about Mound Ridge time and everything, the storm coming down from the northwest.
Yeah.
Did any of Marion County get that, Gossel or anything over there?
Yeah, they did.
Well, I heard they've got some.
But it wasn't. I think what happened was it was kind of coming towards us, and the reason that it turned so violent, whatever else, it made that right-hand turn. And that's a good sign of I say tornadic activity or whatever else. They always say, watch those storms and make a right-hand turn, because that's when they turn on. So, unfortunately, I hadn't heard of any major damming and or flooding. So,
Of course, I wonder sometimes when you get a chance, if you could go up into the Ramona area and check something out. That train, the train that goes through, goes through Tampa and Lost Springs, and then it goes up to Ramona and wherever it goes from there. But it seems as though it has an actual path that it takes, and at night, it stops and actually blocks the crossing there at Ramona, and it shuts off and stays off, and that is the only way in and out of Ramona other than a dirt road. And so therefore, for 5, 6, 7 hours, whatever it is, while that train is blocking that, you're aware of it.
yeah, well, yeah, and they don't care.
They don't, the trains don't care.
I thought there was
Right.
some type of law that they could, unless it was an emergency, they
Right.
could only
You-
block it for X amount of time.
But by the time you call in, and evidently it's an automated system. Now, I've been told several times about this. It's an automated system. You call in, so you may or may not hear somebody. But yeah, they're not supposed to block it, but
But they do, and they do it for hours and hours, and
Yeah.
sometimes till 3, 4 in the morning, And so I know we've had situations where the police couldn't get through into Ramona because the train, going around.
Yeah.
And if it would be a rain event, you wouldn't get around. And the same way people can't get out.
Sure.
So I'm just wondering, well, I'm not wondering, I mean, we're gonna have to do something about that, whether it's, and I don't know if you can do anything with the railroad or not, but maybe even look at a road to go around, maybe rocking some road, because somehow those people have to get in and out.
Well, I understand, I think there's ways to get around, they may not be the best, but it's something to look at. But yeah, I know they, when I was working for a contractor, that's one of the reasons why the bridge got built in Harrington. Because that substation right there, they just pulled up there and parked, and they didn't care, they blocked it for hours and hours and hours, and they said, fine, send us the fine for it, we'll pay it.
And I've heard sometimes they pull up there, 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock in the evening, and they're there until almost morning.
Yeah. It depends
So,
on,
I mean, anybody have a heart attack or anything like that, I mean, that is a real problem.
Sure, it depends on, their route, if there's a high profile train coming through, if they're waiting for a different crew to change, it's scheduled, but I'll check it out, see if
See if there's another way or something.
I know we had actually talked about, was it 370th up there? We talked about whether it had to be past the ordinance, to put rock on that road, we're still dealing with trying to put a culvert in there before we would do that.
Yeah,
So, but that's the best look at.
Yeah, because I know,
Lost Springs is on 340th,
Yeah.
and it wouldn't do no good to come back down to the south way, because we've been asked for that, to come south where the old, that's still the passing track, and there's still gonna be trains sitting there. The only way that you're gonna get around it is if you go north and make sure that mile north and come back to Lost Springs would be the way to.
and that's still quite a way around, but I mean, at least ways it would be access,
Yeah.
something.
You ultimately like to say it would never come to that point, but
But then if you do that, you'd have to make the railroad aware that, because they bring a train down from Harrington,
Park it up there.
wait, they may sit and wait to
Sure.
get to these passing tracks, or, I don't know what they would do, but they may settle. I've never seen them setting north of Lost Springs. I've seen them setting south.
Well,
Well, Santa Fe goes from Lost Springs and takes off and goes on this road.
right, I actually sat there 2 weeks ago, about 10 minutes, where the train was long enough that he pulled up through Lost Springs, but it was basically just the locomotives north of Lost Springs. Because you could see where the tracks come together right north there, and he was right up where he had to be, so I assumed he was long enough that that's where he had to be, but it blocked the intersection, and, so. But I'll check it out, see if there's, I mean, obviously that's the issue, you hate to see all the way around, but.
Yeah, I just don't see how we can keep the people stranded.
Well,
I mean,
guess
that's
if it-
terrible.
Yeah, it is, but that's been the railroad, the railroad was there first, therefore they are, and, that's the way.
A thank you from the folks out at Morningstar Ranch.
Oh,
I was out there yesterday, and they wanted to thank Road and Bridge for rebuilding that road, because I guess 5 times this summer they had to bring people in from the pasture.
yeah. That was,
Cedar Point.
that was
Cedar
one
Point
of
to
the,
the pasture.
yeah, that was one of the few we started rebuilding, and just so happened on Thursday, I said, we better put some rock on this, sure enough, that's when another
Yeah, because
huge rain comes.
they had a big rain in that
Yeah,
area.
yeah. Les Lawlett told me that he had 2 3.7-inch rains back to back, 2 nights. So, yeah, we were pleasant, how it turned out and everything else, so, but that's the idea. We've got plans to do that for a lot more, we just.
Because, that's a real asset to the county, and a lot of people don't even really know it's out there, other than they see the sign.
Yeah, so, we're gonna try to go back to alfalfa and work on that one too, because it's the same situation, so. Anyway, nothing else, I'll
Thank
be
you.
back at 10:30.
Yep. Okay, we didn't have anything on the agenda then until 10:30. Tina and I discussed maybe taking a little time to talk about the room furnishings for when we go to 5. So, if you want to take a little time to talk about that, we can do that. Okay, any thoughts?
Okay, so show me something, what do you want to talk about?
Okay, well, I'll get some information for you, I just wasn't sure if the board was interested in talking
Yeah.
about that right now, so.
I'm kinda wondering if the county can't do something about that railroad issue, because I'm thinking that there are laws about that.
There should be.
Well, I know over at Chase County, I'm sure they are, because I see in the paper all the time where they're blocking the tracks, and the police come up there and they,
First time somebody in Ramona succumbs to a heart attack.
And Susan, yeah.
Yeah.
But then it's-
but
Yeah,
it's
that's
still,
when-
I
It's
still
too
think,
late.
I think it's against the law though, I think.
Yeah, I
What
think
train
you're right.
is it?
So maybe the county could write them a letter.
It could be two different trains. It could be the UP or it could be the
It's
Central.
probably UP.
Yeah, I should ask my brother.
Yeah, and then you get into that problem, they'll point fingers at each other. and you-
Sure.
And who you
I
gonna
mean, at
sue?
least talk to us.
Well,
This is our bureaucracy.
I would
I
ask,
think it'd be,
I would think a best way just to send a first notice would be to ask Brad to bring the law up. Make sure the law quotes what we want, and then if it does, then state it. You know, that's the way I would go about it. And then send it to them and see what kind of response we get.
you know, is Brad gonna be here today, Gina?
I believe so.
It's Brad. Where's Brad?
Keep firing them until an overpass is paid for.
Can you have them pay for the gravel to do the secondary road?
It's possible. Ask them. Ask them.
So we're gonna have to open up 2 miles of road or whatever it's gonna be.
It might be peanuts to them. you know.
Yeah.
What they're spending the day in Walton, that'd be no big deal.
Yeah.
Okay. So there are some modular pieces that we can order, and you can build kind of the layout that we have here. We would need it to be slightly longer, and then possibly with a flat on the edge over here, so where you could potentially seat someone on the corner and then forward this way.
You mean angle?
Like a flat piece there. And most of these are slightly narrower than what the tables are. So I would leave the front similar to where it is, but it would give you a little bit more room behind. And I just kind of want to get an idea if this is okay, and if we can go ahead and start with getting some things ordered, but I'm gonna come down here. Anyone else?
Check.
Can I borrow this space? Okay. Just gonna check it. So they have all these different pieces, and so what we would need are some flat top pieces, some of these O-legs, and then you can get them whatever sizes you need. And we were looking at a dark color to match the doors probably, and possibly this kind of a corner, because but you can pick, you know, different kinds. I don't know if we can get anything with a drawer, even just a flat drawer right in front of each commissioner, I thought would be nice, so I'm trying to check into that and see if we can get just a flat drawer that comes in and out right in the lap, rather than a file folder drawer. If you want to keep folders, we can put them under, you know, the portable cards. And then we were gonna do a modesty panel so that it would cover the front.
Honestly.
Yeah, that's
For the
what, like
women,
what the
it's
curtain
good.
is.
It's not like a sneeze guard, man.
It is, except it faces the other way.
We need a sneeze guard.
But anyway, that's kind of what we're looking at. It's something similar to this, and you can't really see a picture, but it's just, you know, flat pieces.
Is this through like Navarrete's or somewhere?
All of the different office stores sell them. There's, I think Office Plus is the one that's been kind of following up with us and working with us on some of these. And the price, you know, each piece is a different price. So you know, we could do something fairly reasonable that would be like, I would say you're still gonna probably be at least $2,500 to get it the way you want it.
What, I see the price of,
Yeah.
which is $199 a piece or $900?
Yeah, they're
Varies.
different, they're different prices. That's the price range, and depending on the size, that's what would designate what the cost is. And then we would do an end panel.
Countertop, they come with the countertop, so.
Yeah,
when
the
you-
flat, that's what this is, this work surface right
Okay.
here.
So should we set like some kind of budget to work from, so?
I just kinda wanna know if something like that works for you. I know you can't really see a picture of it,
well,
but
it's
it would
just got
be,
glare sometimes.
it would be basically a flat surface with a panel on the front, and then room for everybody's legs, cause you wouldn't have, you know, you just have legs, flat wooden legs going in the middle.
And then a diagonal across the.
Yeah, I think if we put a diagonal across the end and lengthen this by at least 12 inches, you know, you're gonna be close together, but it's,
Okay, now I'm just asking, we've done quite a bit of work in the treasurer's office. And that's a grayish color that comes out in there. Yeah, the furniture is, do they have a gray too? I just saw what you turned page to, but that probably moves up the price. I'm just.
these are the different, I mean, they're different colors. We were trying to go more with like the wood that's in the room,
Yeah.
but we can go with more of an office-y kind of look if you wanted to do that.
It don't
So
make no difference, that brown just looks brown.
All I care
it's
is about
supposed
is
to look like
functionality.
a wood grain.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's, I think we kind of looked at that because that's the way you had it before, was the dark brown wood grain table, so.
Yeah, the table was.
But other options besides this would be like those portable tables that you can move around and they don't feel very sturdy. There's also, we've had some people come in and look at doing some custom work and building something, and that's gonna be very expensive to do that. So I was trying to look for a mid-range kind of option for you, so.
Well, that's fine with me. I like that narrow. We don't need a real,
Yeah.
most all this out here is wasted anyway, so I don't mind the narrow. part.
It will be a little bit narrower, maybe like you'd have that much room.
So you'd be talking about something like that.
Yeah, and we can get the places where the wires can go down, and we can run the wires behind the modesty panel at the, you know, in a channel at the top of it. That way, we're not dealing with a bunch of wires up sides and such, so.
Do we want to try one piece, bring it, just take one piece before we order the whole outfit? I'm just.
What we probably can do is have the guy come and do the measurements, put together an actual price of what it would be with the pieces we need for this room to do what we're asking. And he might be able to bring us some samples, if you'd like to do that.
They could do a drawing for you.
What do you want, Joe?
I'm wondering, is there another venue in the building that's capable of handling more of the public rather than improving this room? And then I know that they're needing storage, and they're needing
Everybody
storage.
needs storage.
And if this could all be done in a different area, that there would be less dollars, and these two would gain.
And our alternative in the past is to go up to the court, but that's not really a good
It's not
alternative.
realistic because their schedule is,
You couldn't guarantee it every
Fluid.
Monday
Right.
as a place to be.
almost no Mondays because they have court.
So, you know, at this point, I guess, you know, if we ever did that, would other departments be able to utilize any of this down the road? I mean, if it was taken
Yeah,
apart.
if it was portable
I mean,
and able to be
it's
moved.
easy to move. It's just a modular
Yeah.
piece of furniture.
So I mean, if we put something in here that could be used somewhere else down the road, if we did something like that.
I'm just
You
trying to
got
find the
pieces that you
least
can-
expensive way to get what you're gonna need without,
So how does the court make their schedule though? So if they knew, like, I'll just ask a question, like every Monday, that the commission would need that room, could they not work their schedule around that?
But you
Or-
got trials to
I'm
go
just
on
asking.
too.
Well, yeah, but they don't always do them every day. I mean, sometimes I've been on trials where they extended over, but it was extended 2 days, 3 days, for multiple reasons. So it doesn't mean that they have to be consecutive. And besides that, if it's on a Friday and we move it to a Monday or a Tuesday, what difference would that make? I'm just asking how they schedule.
I'd just like to address, I keep getting that asked question, I'd like to address, you know, this.
You know, that's what I was kind of picking up on there a little bit too, is I don't know how they do schedule, if that would be an option. But
you could visit with the judge and the district court clerk about that, I suppose.
okay.
Those are the ones, I mean, it's a whole different world up there, and it's a whole, I mean, they function completely separate from us.
It's a whole different elevation.
Well, it is, it's a whole different, scenario, and so,
They may want to charge us rent.
And
Oh,
the court clerk would probably be the appropriate one to talk to because the judge always defers to her as far as.
I think the judge is the
dates and-
appropriate one
Yeah.
to talk to.
I
Yeah.
think so too.
He got an
Yeah.
opinion on it.
Okay. Well, it was
I
just
think
a
she
thought.
runs things.
What would be,
Oh, yeah.
what would be the neatest though is when we built the law center, we put a little meeting room over there. But somewhere with a meeting room that could be used for multiple purposes would be for, I think, they have different people, each elected person has different people come in their field sometimes and holds a meeting here in our county. And it would sure be nice to, I mean, like the library center over there that's down there on the end, down there, that, you know, a meeting room of that type or so that would hold quite a few people. That would be a good deal, I think. I would love to look at that. I mean, the storage building, when she was talking about storage, was an 80 by 90 with an extra 50 foot left on the south end for expansion. Even at that, is what we'd like to have built. We've got the rock base. We've put a base in over there already. It's ready to build a building on, but we've never got around to do it. But if it was to be built, why? I don't know what kind of, we have our department heads come here, but I think they could go over there too, except on rainy days it'd be
50 foot, you said there's an allowance for?
the size of storage building, yeah. That building was 80 by 90. And then another 50 foot for the frontage to go to, it would face to the south. At that time, that's one way.
The only thing is, it makes it a little unhandy for the clerk.
I mean,
which
for,
has to get.
yeah, I mean, to bring stuff, it would be a problem that way. And then the other thing we've looked at is that building, just to talk about it, is this building here is so poorly arranged. This Ricky's in and the Amherst is in and all of that. So it's just building, and what do you do with, if you build something there, you move the parking over to that other area over there. Oh, it's across the street too. So that's just some possibilities that we've looked at. And we haven't just got down to a final plan. Maybe now with the tax lid on, maybe it's, can't find money for the transfer station, so trying to find money for this maybe, so tough too, but we're not talking, I don't know, depends on what you build. I don't think there's a lot of this. We even had a plan, drew up with 2 floors sitting right over here with that building going, that tied on with a walkway in between this building and the other building over there. And that was, I don't remember how many million it was.
Wasn't it over 7 million?
I think so. It was up there quite a bit.
Yeah.
So we didn't even pursue it after they drew it. But the judge had his, he was going to move his office, courtroom over there so he could get prisoners, you know, had, you know, and security reasons. So we've looked at a lot of different ways over the past 15 years.
I still wish we would have had the little one, because to remodel that was an elegant building to do what we need.
But there again, it's down the street away from this center here.
You know,
Yeah.
but that had other options too, like to put the court over there or something, and then that would have freed up the upstairs, but just, anyway.
So shall I have them put together, you know,
I
kind of
would.
a
I
drawing?
think we just
or-
authorize Tina to continue to work with
Yeah.
the vendor, to see what they, you know, measure it up, and see what they can.
Bring something back to you?
Yeah.
They may even be able to do a little rough drawing or something.
I'm sure they can.
Save it.
Yeah, it's saved by the sticky note. That's great. Thank you.
This is through here.
This is the furniture's through Han, and they're good quality, but we've been working with several, but primarily Texas Plus. So,
I think for the time being, this is going to have to be our little meeting room anyway, for the time being. Like
We're
you
gonna
said.
have to make this work for a while.
And if it would build something that we could use somewhere else, it'd be great.
okay.
I'm sure that Tina appreciates having her position at the table right next to her.
Oh, yeah.
Makes it way more
It is handier.
Yeah, and your back's not to
Almost
the
every
audience.
meeting, she's
Yeah.
having to go get some kind of document.
Yeah.
Well, we do have some time here, and I do not know exactly the next item on the agenda is at 10:30, and it may take quite a bit of time. So I guess we could take any public comments or citizen concerns right now. And most people that's gonna be here are here, so I'll open that up.
I have a question, I don't know how important it is, but why did the tree in the parking lot get cut down?
It died.
It was dead? Okay. Because I drove up, I always pull into the handicap parking, and I drove up and went, what is different? This looks really
The
different.
sun- the sun's shining.
Yeah, and then I realized no tree.
And we did a lot of work getting the jail built, tore down and around it, and so it wouldn't, we wanted
Yeah.
to save it by
And
all
then it
means,
died
and it just,
anyway.
it dies. Yeah.
Anyone else have anything? How's your chance? Tina, Bill?
Bill Button.
Is he pretty good? Yeah.
Oh, yeah. He's been operating Marion County for a long time.
Yeah, just south of,
Trees. He's very good.
he's just south of Hillsborough.
Okay.
Sure, got the card, it is in
Oh,
the truck.
If you cut trees down like I do, you come up with this and this.
Well,
That's,
I don't think Randy wants to deal with it.
that's what I did this weekend,
Yeah.
and that's all I had to do was cut myself up, so.
Okay. Anyone else have anything? If not, we'll go ahead and recess then until 10:30. Everybody from Don Vista here?
No, no, you didn't decide to bring Diamond Vista in. I called this, actually I wanted to do a special meeting, but we couldn't get the time, but that's okay. So, but I called this basically just for the commission and Kirk and Michael to kind of pull things back to the basics. Because it just seems to me as though everything up north is going amok, and we kind of lost track of the actual contract that we signed and the chain of command. And so I've been noticing and watching, and I think Kirk and Michael is being, shall we say, neglected or overlooked. They're certainly not getting the respect that they deserve for the work that they do. And I pulled out the actual road maintenance agreement that was signed by the commission and Diamond Vista and everybody else involved in that. And I read through it multiple times, and it clearly says at several places, and I'll start right from the very beginning, that the roads included are the county roads within an identified project area, and they are the ones that are considered for the personnel of the project. So it says right here that in section 1-1-3, that the consultant shall be Diamond Vista's principal point of contact with respect to the activity under the road maintenance agreement. So we actually have a chain of command that we all signed off on when we have road issues. And of course, everybody knows we hired Kirk and Michael to do the job, and the county's paying pretty penny for this. And I will tell you that it's worth every dime because of the mess that we have up there. And I know everybody says the roads up north are utopia. I'm here to tell you that that's not quite true, and I've been saying that for a long time. But anyway, I wanted to also bring out a couple other things about the road maintenance agreement. And it also says that upon completion of the construction activities, and as provided in section 2 of this agreement, purchase and install applicable road materials for repair and bear all costs. Any roads that are utilized by Diamond Vista during the construction activity to be conditioned will be equal to on the application construction activities identified in the post-construction inventory. Repairs, conditions that create an immediate or material hazard to the traveling public, as provided in section 2 of this agreement, must be completed. So Diamond Vista knows. Now, they are saying, we have a list of roads, and we've had a list of roads for how long? I mean, this is like our third meeting now on actually giving Diamond Vista a little kick in the butt, because they're just not doing what we contracted them to do. They're not keeping up to their part of the bargain. And in so much saying all of that, I will also say that we even had our attorney, Pat Hughes, write Diamond Vista back in April the 9th, a letter. And that time, he basically put them on notice that according to the contractor, it is 45 days upon written notice that they need to get these roads done. Now, I've read some emails that I have here from Enel, and they're quite disturbing in my opinion. But before I get to that, I also want to go into one other thing. We are still under the construction part, and we haven't got to the post inventory yet. And so therefore, Diamond Vista is still responsible for all those roads. They are, based on their emails, they're resorting to this legal term called force majeure, okay? And I did quite a bit of study on that force majeure, and it is a word that I'm sure I would not want to have in another contract as we go forward. But I was looking up a lot of stuff on that, and that is any damage on a road that is caused by improper water drainage. It's also considered unforeseen hazards or so on, like a war, riot, earthquakes, hurricanes, erosion, blackouts, and so on. But I would take that back from them and take that away from Enel, because personally I don't believe that they can use that clause, because when you're working on construction, whether it's building something or roads or whatever, weather conditions are always something that you project. If you're doing it in the wintertime, you know you might get 2 foot of snow. If you're doing it in the summer, you might get rain or whatever. So whether you get 1 inch of rain or 2 inches of rain, this is something that you should just actually kind of be aware of. So it's really not something unforeseeable. Yeah, so as I was reading through this right here, and it says that weather should always be a consideration when you're in contracting businesses. So, and throughout, I noticed that a lot of the court hearings, and there's several cases, United States versus Brooks and Callaway, and there's a list of them. And the judges actually are starting to go away from the force majeure based on the fact that they need to realize that they're going to face these conditions, and they need to allow a certain amount of days. And the remedy for all of these that the judges have been in these cases given them is simply it's an extension of time. It's not like, my God, we got 5 inches of rain, now we don't have to fix the road, which is what Diamond Vista is trying to pull on us. Oh my God, we're flooded, now we don't have to fix the roads. It's now up to the county, and I'm reading that right here in these emails, that it's up to the county now. Well, until they actually do the final inspection, these roads are their responsibility. And so, I just wanted to bring before the commission's attention. I think you probably all have gotten some pictures of some horrible washouts, and I will also say I understand entirely 6 inches of rain or whatever it is we had at different times washes out roads. But I'm saying that's a self-inflicted wound by Diamond Vista in a lot of places, because they have disrupted our drainage. They have created new roads going up to towers and so on, blocking our ditches, therefore now forcing the water to go different directions. And I've just learned the other day that there's actually laws in KDHE and different places like that to where they are not allowed to do that. And if they do, there is consequences. And so I'm almost thinking it's worth a phone call, so I might investigate that this week. But at any rate, we have serious road problems up north on this project. And the reason I wanted to bring this before the commission is because I think we need to start working as a unit. We hired Kirk and Michael. They're very qualified, they're very professional, they're working their tails off. And the contract does say that you're supposed to be there on a daily basis, right, on a daily basis. And that's what they're doing, on a daily basis. And now we've gotten to the point to where when Kirk and Michael tries to stop somebody from Enel to point out a problem, they just blow on by. They just don't even acknowledge them anymore. I mean, they can't do their job. They can't do their job. And so as a county, I'm saying that we need to give back the authority to Kirk and Michael, who have proven over the course of this construction period that they are very qualified and they know what they're doing, and they work for the county, and everything that they're doing is to protect the county. We need to stand behind them and give them the proper authority that they deserve and that we gave to them last year when we hired them. So I know that Bryce did some intervention up there a little bit, and I appreciate what he done right there, went up and tried to smooth it over a little bit or try to do what he can do. And the response in that letter that they gave, and there's a list of, I don't know, what, 10, 12, 15 areas that need to be addressed. Well, Enel has come back and they're so generously gonna fix 3 of them, or take responsibility of 3 of them. And that's just not acceptable in my book. If we don't hold their feet to the fire now, we're gonna have it really in the shorts come to the end, because it's just getting out of control. And it's really bad, and when it comes to, it even says in this contract right here, the number one thing is the safety of the people. I get phone calls, I've been saying this for months, my constituents, I get phone calls all the time about their roads. And if they're on the hauled routes, there's nothing I can do, because according to the agreement, well, we have to stay on the hauled routes, we as a county have, so there's nothing I can do. But now, we're getting close to the end, hopefully, of that project up there. And I know that Enel was thinking that, oh, well, we haven't been on that road for a week or 3 weeks or 5 weeks or whatever, so that's not our problem. It is still their problem, because we have not signed it off on that road yet. So I'm asking the commission to stand behind Kirk and Michael, and I know that Tanner has some pictures or some information to provide to verify what I'm saying to you, that we need to get corrected, and I'm thinking as a commission that we need to stand behind him. And I think one of the options that we do have, and I'm afraid we might have to get ugly if they don't start bucking up and doing the right thing, we do have the right to revoke or suspend that CUP. And I'm almost afraid that if we don't, if they don't adhere, because on this letter that Pat Hughes sent them on April the 9th, they kind of blew that one off too, a little bit, but they were at least put on notice. So we need to set the standard as to where we as a commission stand and what we're gonna accept. What we're gonna accept from these contractors that come in here and just don't abide by the contracts. So, good, I'm sorry, Ken. Go
Yeah,
ahead.
just to explain, so David usually takes care of, he finds maintenance issue, he tries to work with them, hey, you gotta get this addressed. There's some instances where we just ignore them. So then I ask him to put together a list, he gives it to me, and I email it to pretty much the project party, all the project manager, that kind of stuff. And say, hey, for the road maintenance agreement that you agreed to, and I usually list the sections that they fall under, you guys need to fix this. And usually we give them, a few days. I think the road maintenance agreement, it says they have to have it addressed or an idea of how they're gonna address it within 24 hours. We have been working with them, giving them a couple days. But it's just getting to the point where they're just kind of ignoring this stuff.
So Brad, my question is to Brad then, what would be the appropriate steps to follow in order to get their attention?
Well, they're gonna have to immediately get a hold of them, and the form of communication really isn't all that terribly important. It can be in writing or orally, as long as we have some indication of what we said. That's a good summary that Diane gave of it. A force majeure usually has got to be considered something that is extraordinary, unanticipated. A flood can be considered that if that's what they're citing. I have no idea. Heavy rain, no. There's a point in between those, which you can't necessarily anticipate a tornado dropping down and causing certain types of damage, and that's why that language in constant form is often in these contracts. And it's a term of art in some ways, but it does have legal validity. But it sounds like what I'm hearing here is we're in the middle. We've got that gray area, and there's a lot of stuff that we would consider to be something they should take care of that they're not. So in terms of steps, it's contact us if we don't agree. We don't consider this to be something that would be unanticipated to that extent that you wouldn't be liable for it, and we're going to need to go through that. More importantly, I think the fact that they're not responding consistent with the agreement in terms of that 24 hours, we can hold them to that. And yes, you can go ahead and revoke a conditional use permit. That's part of the reason they're conditional. So if it comes down to it, there's always that option. Of course, we're probably going to end up in a courtroom considering all the investment that they've got in there, but that's beside the point. You have that ability, and that's your ultimate hook in this kind of an instance. Contract requires you to do this. Well, we don't think so. Well, if you don't, and we still continue to think so, and we can't get it resolved in some other way, or a court doesn't indicate that we're wrong, we'll pull the conditional use permit and the whole thing goes away. So be their last resort. I would expect they'd want to fight over that. But
Brad, you yourself just said flood. The pictures I've seen is just like the whole, anywhere in our county where we've had 6-7 inches of rain, the low swells where the culverts are down at the bottom, and that's what I've seen the pictures of, was a culvert that's 8-10 foot of it sticking out, washed away. Due to a flood, due to high rain, even though it's 5-6 inches of rain, which we expect in Kansas. So, what I'm asking you is this force majeure, and are you or Pat, somebody's telling me what got to tell me before we go any farther was if they've got a leg to stand on, or if we don't have, why? But yet, you just yourself said that's a flood, so if we can't let them continue on if that falls under this force majeure. I mean, we gotta go out and do it then.
question of fact, what happens is objectively, a fact finder makes the determination, no, that really doesn't qualify. What we had around Peabody, when we've got to rescue people in a boat, and that water is there for days, that's a flood. Is this because it's a heavy rain? I don't know. I would. That's why I say there is a gray area in there. I mean, that's why there's courtrooms. In those kinds of circumstances, there's only so much you can do to define in a contract. Force majeure, as I said, is a term of art, but its general meaning is that it is by the reasonable person standard, an unanticipated event. It has to be, if we had a hurricane sweep across Kansas, that's probably an unanticipated event. Tornadoes, and again, I'll say flood because it's questionable. What do you mean by that? And that's exactly your question. I get it. No way we're going to know some of that. That part of that's negotiation, and us saying no. We get those rains, and we get them often enough. This isn't a 100-year event. This isn't a 500-year event. In terms of the way the federal government defines it, we've had those in recent years more than once. Is that something they should have anticipated? Where we're going to say yes, they're going to say no, and then the third party comes in and answers it.
Do either one of you two commissioners find it in our contract where if we go out and fix it, we can charge them?
Yes,
It's in there.
yes, it is.
And so, I mean, I don't want to go through 30 days or 60 days, 90 days. Court sometimes goes on forever. But I don't want to go through that long of a spell with seeing 10 foot of culvert sticking out and arguing.
Something that needs to be fixed now.
Yeah, so, it's an interesting, I agree with what you said, but I don't know what that big word is. I don't care to know what that big word is.
It's an act of
Exactly.
God.
A
It's
force-
an act
yeah,
of
act of
God,
God,
that's all
right.
it is, an act of
What
God.
we've had in Kansas is not unusual.
Right.
So
In
what
my
is
opinion.
force majeure? A 100-year event? I guess that's a judge going to determine that.
Right.
But it's not like we don't get 5 and 6 inches of rain, because we do. They even do that. They even do in western Kansas. It might be a desert out there for 3 months, and then they get 8 inches. It's statewide.
And then, would you throw into also the fact that they altered some of our drainages?
Yes.
And then, see,
That's a completely
another-
different question and a little bit more objectively clear. Can't do it in certain ways, and when you can't, you can't. And if you did it, you're liable for that. So there's, like so many other times, there's not just a good, easy, simple answer in a lot of those instances. It comes down to what a fact finder, a judge, will make a determination about in certain cases.
So I wonder
But-
what would happen if you sent them a letter and just put them on notice that if this is not done by X day, so-and-so and
Yeah.
so, you're suspended, period. Do you think we'd get their attention?
Yeah, I would take that full hit list, the punch list of everything that's out there, and if Bryce has any more, put them on there. Simply say, this is everything that needs to be addressed, and this is the exhaustive list at this moment. We need to know your stance on that, and we need to know it within whatever time frame you see is appropriate, because they're supposed to respond to these guys within 24, so they're clearly aware of this. It's not like they're gonna have to go out there and re-study that whole process. And then if they say no, well, then we need to move on.
Then we don't.
If they want to, well, we'll talk about it some more, okay? We'll do that too. It needs to be addressed, so
So
you're right.
in the best interest of the county, time-wise,
Yeah.
is that the best way to do it? Or like you said, we go out and fix it and bill them?
It's sunk cost at that point, but, in terms of safety issues, if you've got something out there where it's washing out so badly that you could potentially cause an accident, we have
I know
liability
the
for that.
one area definitely
So,
needed a.
so it's, there again, You're gonna have to find the funds to do it, which you weren't planning for either. And then we're going to, I always prefer to get something in advance as opposed to have to get reimbursed for it. However, you also have an intervening motivation here to fix it so that you got safety concerns resolved.
Plus, I think under the FEMA declaration, that included all Marion County roads. We didn't exempt any Diamond Vista roads or anything like that.
Mhm.
So potentially we may get some money back on those roads, but like you
Even
said,
so, it's still,
a
if
year
we're
from
found
now.
to be their liability, they
But
still
you've
have to
got,
pay it
you've
back.
got an immediate problem. I'm just thinking, what's in the best interest of the residents of the county? Send them this letter and give them X amount of time, and we're sitting out there with a potential disaster to happen, or
So, I'm sorry, but can we, in the letter, let them know that X amount of days, and we're gonna shut you down? But in the meantime, we have some serious, safety issues on the roads due to your neglect or whatever, that we will, as a county, be fixing those, and we will send you the bill. We can kinda do a dual
Mhm.
thing right there, so we can take care of those. But of course, I
One
have.
comment you made about shutting them down would have to be worded a little differently. We would initiate the process.
it would take a
Yeah, well, I'm talking to a legal person to address a legal issue here,
But I think
yeah.
for the best interest of the county, we need to take
Yeah.
all of those into, and, you know, Bryce may have to send some people out there to do that.
Cameron, you and Dave, do you guys, Dave, right? Do you guys have a list of, I just seen one picture that's ugly on a 10 photo, so culvert sticking out. Do we have 5 of those? Do we have 10 of those? Or what I'm wanting to do, in my opinion, to get something done immediately for safety's sake would be to judge the 5 worst, 10 worst, situations where safety could be involved.
Compromised.
Compromised.
And I think some of the ones that you're talking about, might be your blade guy and taking the pictures and sending them.
Right.
That's on Nighthawk, there's 2 of them on Nighthawk. Those have been repaired. And I went down this morning and they're the best I've ever seen them. They are.
And they took care of
picture
that?
perfect, yes.
And that's the one that you negotiated on, am I right, that's in this email, or is that a different one? Because it says Nighthawk, 340th to 260th?
Yes.
Okay, so that's one that in your email, that they said they was fixed, and then probably also the one on Nighthawk right here, that's the second, number 2.
Yes.
They said that as well. And then number 9 is 340th Bridget Limestone Mustang. Did they do that one yet?
They threw some rock over, patched it up for now. I'm saying for now, they may fix it, I don't know. They
Okay,
put some rock
but
over
they
it.
did some rock on. So 1 and 2, as they said in their email, they were fixed.
Yes.
So then that still leaves 13 more. At least, that's on the
Yeah.
list that we just gave them.
But getting back to what Randy said, which one of those create a real public safety hazard? Is it all of them?
Well, yes. Most of them that I have down, except for number 12. Yes, 12 is what you were just talking about.
Water.
Their string road has taken away from the ditch line. And so what it's doing, they put a culvert tube in, but they're totally silted shut. It's been silted shut for over 2 months. I've asked them to get that cleaned out. So it's gonna item number 12.
Due to their new road they cut
Yes.
in, coming down to our road.
Yes.
Then that fresh mud goes down and
Yes,
fills the
so
culvert.
it comes down a hill.
Okay.
And so it flows down their road into your ditch line, filling it up with silt. And so they have to come across the road.
So it's a great problem.
And washing it out. And that's the one, your blade got Laurel is right down from his house.
But there's several places like that to where
Yes.
the culverts are, and so therefore it's diverting the water different places.
Right.
Yeah, and I think
Putting
there's,
it over the road.
I can't remember how many culverts, but I know there's quite a few culverts that are filled like that, for that very reason.
Yes.
Yeah.
And the thing that I had noticed last week, their O&M building in the substation,
Yes.
they have cleaned the ditch going south on Indigo over half a mile down to a waterway. Totally cleaned this ditch out. Why aren't we doing that everywhere else? Because you're diverting water away from your O&M building to get it out of there.
Interesting.
So do you have easy contact with the engineer of this Heimer? or is he out of the area? He just,
So I don't believe he's on site.
No.
So it was Mark Donorama, his last day was last Tuesday. Now this guy's off-site, kinda, he said he's been part of the project the whole time, so he's the one that we're directed to speak with. Now there's a temporary guy for 2 weeks.
Yes.
Um,
Jeff.
Let's see, Rusty Brown. Yep, so he's got a telephone number there. And then after his 2 weeks, I think they're gonna give us some permanent guy. But right now, we're directed to talk to Jeff and also Steve Williams. Steve Williams was, I think, number 3, one of the guys.
Yeah,
that-
such a changeover. See, and that's another issue. I mean, you never know who to contact. Well, I mean, they do give us notification, that's
Right,
true.
and
But it's like, you can't really follow anything or get anything, because everything changes all the time. And they all come in with their own ideas as to how we're gonna do this.
Can I offer a little bit here?
Sure.
I talked with Jeff last week. Basically, he kept saying force majeure, and I said, you can, if that's the case, I mean, if you wanna claim that, fine, but we still gotta get these roads fixed if it's a safety issue. If you feel like you wanna keep track of that, turn it back over to us for extra compensation, I mean, if that's what you wanna do, fine. We've gotta get these roads fixed. And I said, second of all, you keep saying this is caused by force majeure, it's not a responsibility. Every one of these roads is your responsibility from start to finish. And I said, but he said, those roads out west, we haven't driven on them for weeks and months. I said, I don't care, they're not accepted, because you're not done with them. They've got a couple low water crossings need to be done. Well, if you're not showing any status or progress back there, why would we, and I said, ultimately, here's the deal, is you guys have got to get this done, or we're going to plan B. Or whatever that may be. I said, we just need to get these in. And in the email, I said, here's the other thing is, we haven't got a schedule from you since June as to what they are. They've had a tremendous problem in field turnover, and that's an issue obviously for these guys. They're out here all the time, they're trying to work with somebody. Well, and I think they're having, I think that they're having their own issues, but it doesn't matter because the entire Diamond Vista and now whatever else is a point there. So I told them, I said, we need to get back to fixing these roads, and obviously the on-site person I think would help. I mean, you talk about their turnover, that's been an issue for a long time. But we just need to get these roads done and get a schedule so that we can, at least have something going. And now we're being told it's gonna be November. Well, you could put 2 and 2 together if a contractor's been out there for a year and a half, working out there for whatever reasons, rain or whatever else. That's costing a lot of time and money on their part, that now that's what they're looking at as a contractor would. Doesn't make anything any different. But I told him, I said, if you were out there 3 or 4 months, you'd be happy right now, but now it's a year and a half later, we're still dealing with these issues. But I at least told him, I said, we need to get back to dealing with stuff in the field with these guys, because they give me a weekly update and Tanner calls and Dave calls, whatever else, but that's the problem they face is the on-site supervision. They have, I don't know what they have for contractors, subcontractors, whatever else, but again, that's ultimately their responsibility as the owner or whatever you want to, in that whole situation. So, and obviously, the force majeure, like we've talked about, that's an issue, but I told him, I said, I'd love to come back and say, well, sorry, I can't fix these roads because of force majeure. I gotta fix the roads, whether I have the money to it or whatever else. It's one of those things we've got to do. And I told him, I said, ultimately, you don't wanna have an accident out there that would cause a, serious injury or death, because, yeah, they're gonna be responsible. We're probably gonna be named in it too. And I know my guys are very, very adamant. The fact is, if they get calls from people, said, this is a wind turbine road, and because we've told them, do not go on there, So, again, and the issue with Pat, he wrote a letter, and I think a lot of those things were getting addressed. The problem is we've been having more and more issues, and we just never, the stuff that we request them to do, they do, but then other stuff comes up, and it's a shame to say you have to turn around and have an attorney write them a letter all the time, but it would be so much easier just to say, hey, and we've tried to do, work with them out in the field and have everybody get together, discuss everything, but they're just, for whatever reason, they're just big business, whatever else, they don't care, they want to move on to the next project, but they got a long way to go. I mean, they haven't finished from the start yet. So, now the other issue too is, and I guess I don't think anybody ever anticipated this, but by building new roads or whatever else in there, nobody maybe took into consideration the change in drainage, the size of the pipes or whatever else. The other thing that hurts them is very sandy soil up there. And if you don't get any kind of soil erosion stuff in there done right away, you're gonna fill up culverts pretty fast. And then once you fill up culverts, you're starting down a bad path. So I mean, I'm not saying that that's ultimately their responsibility, but again, cleaning this stuff out and soil erosion stuff is part of the requirement. So I guess, you know, and I agree with you, you know, county-wise, commission-wise, Brad, these guys, you know, we do need to stay committed to getting this straightened out, if nothing else, for the constituents who live up there. But I don't know what that answer is. I mean, I wish it was a simple answer.
Well, Brad, I would ask you, would you be able to write them the letters, and you understand all the different ins and outs of it here as we discuss it? And I will also say one statement that you said, and I appreciate what you're saying, I know they're looking to save money. Well, so are we. You know, I don't want to pay for their mess, but then the second thing is for them not to have considered the drainage. You know, this is not their first rodeo. This is our first rodeo, but it's not theirs. So to say that they haven't considered drainage would be pretty stupid on their part. Surely they have.
I can tell you where that's come from. They never anticipated to be out here a year and a half.
Yeah.
They expected to be in and out here in 4 to 6 months like normal. They had a rough winter and rough spring, and now this stuff is just part of dealing with construction for that length of time.
And actually, I think they have a lot of problems that we don't know.
Well,
that are not
you know,
brought out to
again,
the
but
front,
ultimately we don't care. This is their.
Good point. Yes.
Exactly, and that's what I told
Yeah.
the project manager. I said, you can go back and tell your bosses all you want to, but ultimately you guys are responsible. Well, then that afternoon said, hey, we'll be fixing this and this and this, and that was about 30 minutes after our phone call. So.
And I have just one more question. Do you know who Stephen Pike is? Is he still in there, Stephen Pike? Because he says in this letter, as a response from Annelle, it says that in the future, direct all notices to Stephen Pike, Director of Operations and Maintenance, and Stephen Pike, and he wants to be a part of that. Did you ever hear his name?
We've never been informed about Stephen Pike.
Okay.
There's Steve Williams, but never Stephen Pike.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't know, but I don't know if he's still there or not, but as of April, he was.
Okay.
But-
So does he have an email? We could put him on email.
I have his email address. It's in this letter here, so yeah, I can give that to you to see if he's still there, because that's what it says in all future, for future correspondence with respect to the agreement. Please direct all notices to Stephen Pike. So,
Who's left around here to talk to? Because what is it, Italian or is that?
he's gone, yeah.
He's gone?
He's
Rico?
gone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is
I
everybody-
remember the project manager is up there.
The project manager is Jeff, well, I assume he's in the office, I don't know. That's been the latest contact. They provided you this temporary contact for 2 weeks, and then they're gonna provide somebody else. I said, I don't care who it is, if it's you or if it's a president, we need to have it on site out here so we can have somebody deal. That's been one of the biggest downfalls the entire time that I've been involved with them, is the on-site support, and maybe the lack of backing him up, you know, when they wanna do stuff, and they're not getting that support. And I think that's why they're leaving, but.
So in the short term, if we have a 5-inch rain this week, and we blow out another culvert or two, does the commission want us to fix it and bill them? I mean, it's gonna be part of the correspondence. I'm just thinking in the short term, till everything gets addressed.
Sure. Here's one of the issues that I have with that is, we're having a hard time keeping up with.
Well, I know that.
Now. But
That's
I
right.
do understand the safety issue. And
Right.
that's ultimately what I told them too, is we've gotta worry about these culverts if we cause accidents. But, you know,
Well,
that's the thing, is we have to work on.
I think that if Brad sends Annelle a letter stating that Kirk and Michael is who they need to, you know, number one, is their consultant, and they need to contact them, and you would know right away if another culvert is blown out. And then you contact them and get it done. They should start inspecting Kirk and Michael, because that's the way it was set up originally.
Also, if we do it for safety reasons and we go ahead and intervene proactively, we need to do a paper trail with that
Yes.
too, Bryce. Because I don't want to affect the waiver. Oh, well, you went and fixed it, you got on our road and did it, and now it's all wrong,
Yeah.
and so now we won't touch it. I don't want to get into that either.
Yeah, and we're concerned about is, one of the things we've talked about is, we'll do it once and we'll do it twice, we'll do it 3
Yeah.
times, you know, where do you stop?
And so an interesting point was brought up since you just said that. So on this April 9th letter, and it's funny because we had the rains and stuff, back in March and stuff is when they started coming and things like that, and they were fixing the roads. When the rains come, they brought in, and they were fixing them, and everything was fine, and then we had another rain, and they were fixing them and doing it just right, and now they're claiming that force majeure, okay?
They're
So
also
they were
saying
doing
that
it.
on a lot of these, we've had no contact or any impact on them since July the 9th. I don't care, I'll be
Yes.
honest, at this point, the way of and that's for memory, which is always dangerous, but the way that maintenance agreement reads, this continues until we do a final inspection on this whole thing, and they're talking about, as Bryce said, they have a schedule, but we're looking at the potential for November, so until then, you've got exposure, if you're sitting where they are, so
And-
they're
and
gonna
that's-
have to deal with this.
Yeah, and that's exactly what I told him. I said, these roads are not, you're not done with these roads till they're accepted.
Yeah.
And, you know. well,
And
we're not
that's
driving
normal in a
on this.
governmental setting.
Exactly, yep, I agree.
So, sounds like you got homework.
Mhm.
So these two words are causing us a lot of problems.
Not just the two words. Their interpretation of how that agreement has been written versus how its plain language in the four corners of it reads. Well, we weren't on there since then, we fixed them at that point. Well, then you needed to have an inspection done back then where we released you, accepted the roads, and now you are off the hook and you're indemnified going forward. It's not the case. We've still got an open contract.
And they still have work to do on those roads.
Mhm.
That's what I brought
I mean,
up.
there's even some of the things that should have been done that have nothing to do with acts of God that haven't been done, I'm hearing, so we're not nearly at the point of completion.
Right.
So your correspondence would be addressed to this Jeff Pimer?
And that's what I'm assuming, unless these guys have somebody else they want me to send it to, and we can carbon it all over the world, I don't have a
Right,
problem with
yeah,
that.
I mean, if there's other entities that need to be copied on that.
And I think that's what they've got set up, isn't it? The primary contact is still Jeff.
Yeah, it's Jeff
And-
for-
But I mean, obviously copying everybody else, but I mean, I would address it to Jeff.
Yeah, so I have Rusty Brown on there, Steve Williams, and then probably just Mike.
Who's actually sitting physically in the office? Anybody?
2-week guy now, huh?
Well, he's saying this Jeff Pimer's not on location.
As far as I know, Jeff has never been out there, has he, on a day-to-day basis? You guys have seen him? See, that's the thing is we don't know. I mean, like I said, Mark up within about a week and a half said he was going, and I think he kind of turned everything over to their management people. And they're like, they didn't know what to do. So they're kind of grasping on their end, trying to figure out what to do too.
Are they started on the west end, working east, or are they to finish, or what's the progress in your viewpoint with?
Well, and that's the thing that we're talking about. The west, they're saying, well, we're done with the west, we're done with the west. Let's check it off. They had a dozer on D1 last week for 3 days. That's about the far west you can go.
Diamond?
Well, semi took it over there. So
Yeah.
they drove it over there.
Yeah.
You were on the west roads. You're not done with it.
Mhm.
And I kept telling them that, no, you're not done.
Yeah.
So they're hit and miss, and he was saying that they had taken those over there because of crops. So once this guy got his crops out, then they brought the dozer in last week, done up the buried line, where they buried electrical lines.
So
Fix
I
that
think
all up.
this final inspection verbiage is quite important.
Yeah, it is.
There's no final inspection.
But, and that's what I told him. I said, you're not done with these roads till they're accepted. And so,
And they agreed on doing that intersection, correct, when we were all out there that day?
yeah.
Yeah, that has not been done, so they gotta bring all kinds of equipment to that. That's
Yeah,
pretty much the center of
so
the west
that's-
side.
And you know, the thing is that, I mean, for people that drive up there, I told them, I said, you know, I see a whole bunch of equipment sitting out there. If I see that equipment, the constituents are seeing that, and if that equipment's not moving, it's not only costing you money, it's costing you time. Why is it sitting there if you don't have anybody to run? You know, so I mean, I think they've got issues within themselves for the you know, internally, whether it's subcontractors, because I know they made a comment, we are going to inform our subcontractors to do this work. Well, fine, you know, but the work's gotta get done. But, I mean, rain or not, I mean, it's not the ideal situations, but even if it's rainy or muddy out there, you can still do some of the reclamation they're doing, pushing the dirt down. It just takes a little while to dry. I mean, if you're gonna wait for that pile of dirt to dry, who knows when it will be. But,
Yes, my feelings is, Brad, of the commission, is I would like to thank them for doing at least 3 or 4 here, this fix-ups that they've done that they've asked for, but yet there's about 30 more to go. And we are definitely taking some consideration to get some of these things taken care of.
Well, there's two elements of it that probably would catch anyone's attention if you were reading it objectively. One is the fact you don't have a final inspection and acceptance. If you're talking November, all you're doing is expanding your liability.
Yeah.
And the other is if you've got a CUP that you worked pretty hard to get, and you got a whole bunch of stuff in the air spinning, and suddenly the ability to continue to do that goes away, that's got to be kind of tough on your business plan.
Because I'd make a motion for Diane to go out with wire cutters to cut it
Yeah,
off.
I have no problem with that.
So Brad, do you have enough directive then to correspond? So,
I'm sorry, that was just, yeah.
Wow.
Does your project have a scope of work and duration timeline?
I think
On
that
the
went to the
contract?
wayside a long time ago.
It had an original, and that's been modified so many times we've lost track. And the point that Bryce was making is we don't have the current amended schedule. They've gone way past what the original scope of work schedule was.
Did the original include a liquidated damages clause?
No, because of the way the law reads in Kansas, that's difficult to do in a pure liquidated form. But a typical example of where it becomes somewhat liquidated is if we go in and invest money on fixing something, maintain those costs and present them, that's a form of liquidated damage. At least we know what the dollars are. But there's not something, okay, if you don't do this, you know, like we're used to seeing in different types of contracts, that it will have this kind of a daily penalty. Not that I'm aware of.
so Brad, would it be helpful if we made a motion as a commission to have you send a directive to them, knowing
Put it in
that
your
the
minutes.
commission voted on it, whether unanimously or not,
Yeah.
as part of that correspondence, just to try what we can do to get attention. So,
Before we make that, Ken,
yep,
we have Sharon sitting back here, Diane brought it up. How do we rescind a CUP?
So we'd have to follow the same process as getting that CUP. Would have to go through the public hearing, go back to the planning commission board. They would make a recommendation to you as a board, and then that CUP could be revoked, or you could have suggestions to them.
For additions, changes,
Right.
modifications. The burden shifts. With an applicant on a CUP, they have to come in and prove up what it is they're looking to do, what their application is, and it's supported under the law. In this case, we have to show that they violated the conditional uses as they were established at the time of granting.
that being said, I'll make a motion to direct our county council, Brad Jantz, to correspond with NL in regards to the road situation that we have and the need for immediate attention.
I'll second that.
Moved in second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, 3-0.
Thank you guys for being here.
Yeah, thanks for coming over.
I'll go get you some big wire cutters.
Oh, thanks for
That was just funny.
Make sure you get the well insulated.
Yes, yes.
Thanks, Bryce.
That's what he was doing, asking.
Yeah.
Okay, that was the final item on the agenda. We did already go through public comment, so.
Ken, when are we gonna ask Brad about the railroad crossing deal?
Oh, yeah, good idea.
Oh, yes. It was brought to our attention that, is it UP?
It's UP tracks.
UP tracks, they've been stalling their trains for almost unlimited time in the Ramona area.
Yes.
Or which one are you talking about, Ramona or Las
I'm
Vegas?
talking about Ramona.
Ramona.
Oh, Ramona.
But Lost
Okay.
Springs is also probably not near as severe. I guess ways
Okay.
Lost Springs has alternatives.
I got off.
Which is blocking access for the Ramona residents, where they might have to try to use a budget in an emergency.
And it goes for hours. I mean, they'll stop
They're not
that
breaking
train. Huh?
They're not breaking
No, they're not breaking it. And I mean, they might get there at 7, 8 o'clock in the evening and they don't pull it out until 3, 4 in the morning. So that actually isolates Ramona. They have no other way in and out. And when training is Is there a law? Is there a law? Is there, what can we do? I guess it's a question.
There is an advisory, 15 minutes. I run into this all the time and have for years in Sedgwick. Newton, obviously, we've had some issues with it. They typically try to avoid the problem with the Interstate Commerce Commission by breaking them. And so if they have this, or if they have an issue with like they do in Walton right now, there's a bunch of others laying in the dirt. But the norm is to, if they're impacting public safety, and I generally call the regional office Santa Fe, says in Kansas City, I have their number on speed dial. I don't know that I have UPs, but I can get it, at least try to get it, contact them and see if they, bringing it to their attention will do anything initially. If not, then we have to pursue it further.
But that would be also because I say it's hours and hours and hours.
There's a passing track there too, right? Is there two trains that sit on the track right there?
I'm thinking, I'm not sure.
Probably not till Harrington.
No, but I think I thought there was a passing track there, the reason why they're sitting there.
I'm not sure.
I thought that was the reason
I
why
go
they're
over that
sitting.
railroad track so many times.
I'm positive there's two tracks here. Never
Okay.
looked at it.
Anything else from the commission?
Yeah, I don't think so. Address the letter that way.
Yeah. You gonna take care of that then, Brad?
Yes.
Through whatever correspondence you deem necessary.
Okay.
Does that suffice?
That suffice.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, it's our final agenda item. So, make a motion to adjourn.
Okay.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.